Good afternoon, folks at the Bosque County Fair. We're getting ready to start our Market Meat Goat Show. We'll start with our showmanship, seniors first. And before we do so, I would like to have you join us in the national anthem. I'm going to have Tawny Weaver come. She's going to sing for us today. So if you could stand and remove cover, it would be great. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the moon's bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. We'll try to get started promptly at 1.
Right here. Tyler.
Oh, he's doing my ribbon.
Oh, man.
I can't do it.
There was 2 of them up at the train. I'm gonna go hang these up real quick. And then I forgot to grab your capsule. Bucket capsule. I asked her.
Riley, you want to switch spots?
No. I'm good. I already had my fair. You got a good one.
No. I told Christy, I was like, I saw Riley descending as I'm announcing.
And
I was so sad. I was like, I can't have her.
you're dreaming.
fair 4-H.
But not mine. I didn't mess it up. I
Okay.
don't know. I'm not seeing her. You know.
You can use just your road.
That's a Gordon party question.
Oh well, it's Emily. Just toss her in
I
there.
give her the benefit of the doubt and say her advisor messed up the paperwork.
I would agree. Tyler, there's a lot of FFA people. I hope I gave you enough FFA ribbons.
You want me to go check with Carol?
Well, I have a bundle of each in there. Oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Her ghost made it in. Yeah, I just
We'll put her in.
I bet. It wasn't incarnated. It wasn't programmed.
Are they waiting on me?
Welcome to the 2020 Fox Butte County Meat Goat Show. First up is our senior meat goat showmanship. Rosa Mullet, Shelby Carr, Cash Davis, Haley Davis, Kayla Hood, Haley Shreve, and Emily Noe. I'd like to take this time to welcome our judge today, Coral Despain. Coral grew up on a commercial cattle operation in southeast Idaho. She shoved cattle competitively for 10 years. After graduating high school, she left Montana for Casper, Wyoming, where she competed on the livestock judging team. She graduated with her associates and was named an academic All-American livestock judge in 2017. She then transferred to the University of Wyoming and competed on the livestock judging team there as well. She was recognized as a high individual at the American Royal Livestock Judging Contest in Kansas City, Missouri. She graduated with her bachelor's in ag communications in 2019 and is currently pursuing her master's in animal science. She is the assistant coach for the UW Livestock Judging team alongside Caleb Borland and her new husband. Thank you, Laurel.
I just saw thank you sponsors. Okay, I need to put here something with this. I'll get a white so I can do a page later. That's actually a Macy. Macy over there?
Well, folks, we've got an awesome set of seniors here setting the standard for the GOAT showmanship to go on today. I hope the younger eyes in the barn are watching. I don't think we could make a set of showmen here more intense as a group. They're all doing extremely well, and even if it's off here on the side, it's just getting awfully nitpicky. I will mention one thing, it's kind of hard as a judge to kind of have a breeding goat thrown into the mix because racing is such a big piece of showmanship in my opinion. That's what makes it tough from my standpoint. So the young lady in the back of the line is going to go ahead and be fourth, and it's not to any fault of her own. I just feel like it's a struggle out here to not have your animal racing and then have these three or the rest of them all racing as hard as they can get those animals to work, and I think it's just an element of extra, level of hardness, if you will, that just kind of influences how showmanship goes, and that's what makes it tough in my opinion. So from there, I think it gets awfully close, like I said. I think all four of these are doing an outstanding job. For me, there was one individual that stood out from the beginning. She's super cool, calm, and collected, and just methodical in every movement she makes, and she has that goat looking the best that it can every time, and she's not afraid to make a circle as the young lady here in front of pen 5. She's going to go ahead and be your champion, senior showman. And for me, it gets awfully close here between reserve, between the two ladies in the front of the line. You've got one that's been stuck in the same spot the whole time. That goat has been planted there. It's racing as hard as she can get it to, and almost need to just let it take a break and do a lap. Because at this point, it's already starting to rise in it. And so that's what makes it tough is, yes, you've been still the whole time. That goat's done a great job racing for you, and it's obviously done your work at home. But also, does he look the best that he can right now as far as looking the most natural? Versus the young lady up front that's kind of having a heck of a time with her gear. I do prefer showing with the halter. I think it makes the goat look a lot more natural rather than that chain kind of choked down around their neck. But again, I don't think you need it to win. That's why it gets tough between the two, because you've got one that's probably just a little bit more nitpicky, making more circles, trying to keep that goat looking the best that she can, and then you got one that's been just stuck there the whole time, but does the goat look the best that it can? And that's why it puts an extra element of showmanship and extra level to think through as a judge. And that's why it gets awfully close between the two. Young lady up front is going to go ahead and be your reserve. She's working awfully hard. I think that goat, and when she gets it stuck, it's the best that it can. Young lady, you're going to go ahead and be third. Young man that comes in fourth, he's doing a really good job. Goat got a little bit antsy there on the line. Just wanted to dance around a little bit, but when he does get stuck, it looks awfully good. Again, have to get awfully nitpicky here between these. Just as a group, the set of showmen here is ultra deep. Young lady behind him, you're at the epitome of intense. Enjoy yourself a little bit. I feel like you're kind of staring a hole through me. Outside of that, you've done a really good job. Maybe get that goat to drive just a little bit harder. I don't think he's bracing as hard as he could. That's probably what slid you down the most. Young lady behind her, those feet and legs are off just a little bit. That backside off leg on your side is kind of what is your kryptonite. That leg's been off, you had it stuck in one spot, the best that it could at one time, and then outside of that, it's been off every now and then. So just make sure you're paying attention to legs. Once again, folks, an awfully deep, stellar set of individuals here to start the standard of the showmanship for goats. Go ahead and put your hands together for an awesome set one more time.
One more, Ryan. Oh, sorry.
Our champion senior showman is Haley Davis. Our reserve champion senior showman is Roslyn Bullard. Receiving purple, Shelby Carr and Michaela Hood. Receiving blues, Haley Shreve, Cash Davis, and Emma Hill. Snapping the ring is our intermediate meat goat showmanship, Ashley Carr, Seth Myring, and Macy Vallejo.
An awfully nice set of intermediate showmen here. Since there's only 3 of them, I'm just going to talk about each of them individually, and then I'll shake their hands in the order that I like them. Young lady here on the backside doing a really good job. You're very calm and collected. You're easy to talk to. The only recommendation would be to make sure that you know the percentage protein of your feed that you're feeding. Every now and then that goat will move on you, and I'd like to see you get into it and actually get it to brace against you. That's probably just the biggest thing. If you're going to get sorted down, it would get you sorted down. Young man in the middle, biggest thing for you is that goat doesn't walk tremendously well on the chain, doesn't really allow you to keep its head up. Outside of that, you're doing a really good job. I don't think we can get that goat to brace any harder. One thing to be careful of is every now and then you get that goat stretched out just a little too far, so make sure that you're keeping its back feet underneath them, just like it is right now. The young lady in the front, you're doing a stellar job. Once again, you're super cool, calm, and collected, and I like that about you. If anything, it's just a personal preference for showman style. If you could get down just a touch lower into your knee, right into that goat's breastplate, would be the only thing for me. I think you're doing a really good job with your transitions, opening up to me, and making sure that those feet are set where they need to be at all times. Once again, folks, please put your hands together for an awesome set of intermediates.
showmanship champion is Ashley Carr. Our reserve champion is Seth Myring, and the seat in blue is Casey Vallejo. Now entering the ring is our junior meat goat showmanship. Anna Millen, Brennan Tree, Kennedy Tree, and Bryson Fritzler. Can we have Kaylee Davis, Ross Bullock, Ashley Carr, and Seth Myers to pull them in, please?
Once again, I have a really stellar set of kids here to work with. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did in the last round. Talk about each of them individually in no particular order and then shake their hands at the end of it in the order that I like them. Young lady up front, you're doing a really good job. Just make sure that you're transitioning to whatever side that I'm on so that we're kind of making a goat sandwich there. The goat's always between me and you. That's probably the biggest fault that you're doing here in the ring, so just make sure that you're opening up to me, and when I come directly around in front, make sure you slide off to the side so I can sit in front of you, okay? Just make sure to give me all the views outside of that. She did a really good job. Talking to me, those goat's feet are set at all times, and then she's getting that thing braced like a 16-year-old would. Young man behind her, Same story, make sure that you're opening up to me and trying to just kind of keep that goat between me and you, rather than being on the same side so that I can see every inch of that goat, okay? Every now and then those legs will get a little off and you have a little bit of trouble walking. So just work on that next year if you're going to show again, to try to walk him like you would with your deer in the show ring so that he's used to it, okay? That's probably the biggest thing there. The next two individuals, same story, type of deal. You're both doing a lot of things good. You're both doing a lot of things the same way. So you guys are doing a good job transitioning, but same thing, same story. Make sure you're opening up to me so when I get in front of that goat that I can see every inch of it. Because when I came around the front of the line, you opened up. Your legs will get a little off at sometimes, young man. Young lady, you do a really good job too. Work a little bit on your questions so you know just a little bit more knowledge and that you're like completely prepared for anything I have to ask, okay? Outside of that, I think they're all doing a really good job though. Once again, folks, please put your hands together and congratulate each of these individuals.
Our champion junior Nico Showman is Mackenzie Street, and our reserve champion junior showman is Brennan Street. Receiving blues, Bryson Fritzler and Anna Miller.
They should know that they can do those sometimes.
Now in the ring for our champion showmanship drive is Roz Ulick, Haley Davis, Seth Myring, Ashley Carl, Mackenzie Street, and Brennan Street. I'd like to take this time to thank our showmanship sponsors today, Guns R Us 4-H Club, Taurus Corporation, Jack and Mary Taylor Family, Bullet Built, Sandy Irene, Guardian Bells, Sand Prairie Wardrobe, and Ed and Amy Jensen Family.
Once again, folks, give it up for these awesome goat exhibitors out here. There's two individuals that struck me awfully hard with just a certain presence about them. I can't even imagine the amount of hours they put in at home because they're just doing an awesome job out here. So with that being said, the two young ladies in the front of the line, Leo Champion and Dessert, they're doing an awfully nice job, folks.
Marcelo Lewis, our
Our overall meet goat showman is Haley Davis, and our reserve overall showman is Ashley Carr. Now in the ring is our feeder goat, shown by Marcelo Loomis.
Single entry here to start off our market goat show, and I think there's pieces to look in this animal. Love how shallow chested this wether is, long and thin in terms of its neck. It still sets it high on the top side of that one's shoulder. From their back though, we just wish it had a little more, and that's to be expected as a feeder goat. Just wish there was a little more to him. I think if we would have gotten that one just a touch bigger, they might have been just a little bit more volume muscle all the way through. There's pieces to appreciate this thing a little bit more right now, but an awfully good one. Go ahead and put your hands together for a single entry here.
Receiving a blue, Marcelo Loomis. At this time, I'd like to introduce our 2020 Fox View County Fair royalty. Our queen is Camry Vogel. Our first attendant, Aubrey Garrett. Second attendant, Lily Carlson. And this year's Miss Congeniality, Peyton Johnson. Now in the ring is our market meet girls class 1, Anna Millen, Macy Vallejo, Bryson Fritzler, Anna Millen, and Emily Knight.
She's over there for me.
Class 2, go to the holding ring, please. Seth Conray, Ashley Carr, Cash Davis, and Haley Davis.
go ahead and start off our market goat show. The whether that wins up front, maybe just not the most attractive thing as far as the way his shoulder is laid. He's a touch thicker in terms of his hide and pelt, a little rounder in terms of his neck shape. But as we evaluate that one from the ground up, it's a big-footed, stout-featured whether that's wide in terms of his chest, round body, and that's what facilitates his extra massive power shoulder back. That one just feeds the most product from his down the spine and then there from behind as well. Young ladies though that comes next mirrors the same image as far as being wider constructed than the rest of the class. Not near as impressive there from behind once you get a little narrower after your pin set. A little frailer there in terms of her feature and just needs some more shape and turn there through its twist and lower leg. But a nice goat to go ahead and come in second. Young ladies kind of chromed up though that comes next. She's a little smaller, she gets outweighed. She's definitely on the smaller, more moderate side, but I still think there's a lot of pieces to appreciate about this one. When she gets that one to brace into her, that one's top side shape will come out of it. That one's fairly expressive in terms of the way that's handled. She's hard to the touch and got some pieces of look in terms of being shallow chested and neat in terms of her neck attachment and long and thin ahead of there. That's just from their back, but there's not enough of that goat. She needs to be stouter there from behind and just overall with more mass and product all the way through. But she definitely has some cool pieces there from the sides in terms of handling quality. Young man's whether that comes next. It all starts down low, that one's just a little too narrow in terms of its chest, flatter in terms of its forearm, and then from their back just needs a touch more turn of rib to facilitate some more mass up high. But for me, that one's just a little bit more impressive there from behind as far as being deeper twisted and a touch more powerful there through its stifle relative to the young lady's goat that comes in next. They're very similar in terms of the way they're built. They're both just a little bit closed up underneath, like the young lady's goat in terms of being just a touch stouter feature. When we start evaluating that one from the side, though, his top will start to pull out of him ever so slightly. Then he gets a little too rounded off in terms of his hip. But a really nice set, folks. Go ahead and put your hands together for these goat exhibitors.
Receiving purple in class 1, Anna Millen. Receiving blue, Anna Millen, Macy Vallejo, Bryson Fritzler, and Emily No. Now entering the ring is our market class 2, Seth Myron, Ashley Carr, Cash Davis, and Kaylee Davis.
Okay.
I'd like to say a special thank you to our superintendents of the Meat Goat Show. They make this show possible and they help it run quickly and smoothly. So thank you to Christy Bullock, our superintendent, and thank you Colleen Hood, our assistant superintendent. And thank you to our junior superintendents, Kayla Hood and Emily Dawson.
Once again, a really nice set here to sort through and work with. Young man at the front of the line is going to go ahead and win this set for me. That goat needs more shape there directly from behind. Needs to be a touch wider and more blown open in terms of its pin set. Track just a little wider there from behind, but really like that goat in terms of its stoutness of feature, its shallowness and width of chest. He's big in his forearm, and that one's the best in terms of his body shape. It's extremely round, yet still shallow and athletic, and that handle is about as hard and thin as you can make them. Thin in terms of his hide, hard in terms of his touch. He's expressive in terms of his muscle shape, like that one an awful lot. The young lady's goat that's going to come in next is definitely the stouter, wider constructed one from behind of the pair. Wish she was just a touch stronger there, directly right behind her shoulder. She still handles extremely great from their back. She still handles with plenty of square shape there. Maybe just not as elite in terms of the way that one's built. They're perfectly right behind his shoulder from the side. But that one's underline balance is impeccable. Still wedges really nice into its flank line. Maybe just not as stout in terms of its foot size as the one that wins. Young lady spot shoulder goat that comes next. Like an awful lot in terms of the basics. That's a wide-chested, big ribs, big forearm type of goat. That handles a ton of mass and power up high. Still extremely square to the edges right there, right behind his shoulder, but then as we get progressively farther back, it's not as square and impressive there in terms of its loin edge. That one's about as big as you can make them through their pin set. Still comes with plenty of shape under his twist and lower leg. When we get off to the side of that one is where it gets beat for me. Relative to the top two, that one's just a touch shorter and bigger in terms of its neck, a notch wider and bolder there in terms of its shoulder. It needs to be just a touch longer all the way through, but a really nice weather there. Then Winnie's weather that comes next, once again in terms of the basics, wide-chested, widely constructed, opened up, and round body. Maybe just not as out there in terms of his pieces there. Whether you handle him up high or there from the side, it needs to be a touch more unique. Now the young man's weather that comes next is the more unique option of the two. That one's full from the side in terms of his shallowness of chest, length of front end. Where he sets his neck is really cool, and then once again, like I said, cool pieces. He just doesn't put them all together like we want him to. He's a little off behind his shoulder, gets a touch steeper there in terms of his hip. And then the way that one's back leg works, he'll want to roll and twist ever so slightly off those rear two. Cool pieces, just a little too piecey for me. Then the young lady's goat that comes next, full body shape in terms of being really shallow and round there in the portion of her midrib. She gets a little flatter there to her forehead, wants to narrow up to her chest, and then all that combined kind of takes away from the fact that she needs just a shot more power there right behind her shoulder, and that extra power would help keep her spine in there just a touch better as well. Get behind her, she needs just a touch more gas and go there right from behind her. Nice set, folks. Once again, go ahead and put your hands together for these individuals.
The seating purples in our market class 2. Seth Myron and Kaylee Davis receiving blues, Ashley Carr, Cash Davis, and Cash Davis.
At least you corrected it.
Yeah, but
Market Pass 3, Haley Davis, Shelby Carr, Cash Davis, Robin Bullock, and Shelby Carr.
Once again, folks, a really nice set here, and I think that the top three could have some sort. I'm going to go ahead and leave them the way they're standing in line. If we can just rotate and jimmy them around every time, that'd be cool. But we're going to go ahead and use the young ladies go up in the front of the line to win. I think up front, the front two-thirds of that thing are pretty elite. Not only is it wide, shallow, and tucked up in terms of its chest support, the way that one's front end and shoulder and neck assembly is put into it is awesome. He handles it incredible. You get over his loin, he needs to be just a touch wider and square to his edges, and then directly from behind, he needs to be just a touch deeper there in terms of his twist and have just a notch more shape there to the outer turn of his leg. But an awfully nice weather. You get that good motion, I think he looks incredible. Young man weather behind that one, again, just a touch piecey, but that thing handles absolutely phenomenal. That one's the wider, square loin one that's absolutely massive behind his shoulder. He's huge in his chest, big in his forearms, sets down a ton of feature there up front. Right there behind his shoulder, he gets a little off in terms of his top line. He'll want to duck his hip in motion and get just a notch underneath himself, and that's primarily where he gets beat. Young ladies, weather behind him. That's the neater looking one from the side. Stronger in terms of his top line. That one looks just a notch better in terms of the way he gets out with motion. He's a notch sounder in terms of the way his hip and hind leg action and work. But I just don't think he's as overwhelming in terms of his top side shape and mass relative to those top hair. He needs to be just a notch stouter there in terms of his feature to inch up for me as well. Young ladies, go behind her. Huge in terms of her body shape. She's square and wide in terms of her chest. She still handles extremely square up high. Once again, same story. There's just not as many elite, unique, out there things as the ones ahead of you. Directly behind that nose where I think she gets beat. She's too short and round out of her hip, too narrow out of her pin set. Needs to be just a notch deeper in terms of her twist, more shapely there in terms of her lower leg as well. And the young ladies, whether that comes next, he looks the best when he's propped up and braced. you get that new motion, he starts to fall apart just a little bit. His chest will drop out of him, his top line drops, wants to drop into him, and then he wants to round out of his hip. He's a little bit too narrow and closed up relative to the rest of the set in here. Really love his lateness maturity. He's super extended, extremely sound, just a little too easy for me. But once again, folks, an awfully nice set. Put your hands together and congratulate each of these exhibitors.
Receiving purples in Market Class 3, Haley Davis, Ash Davis, and Ron Fuller. Receiving blues, Shelly Carr, Shelly Carr. Now in the ring, Market Class 4, Seth Hiring, Brennan Shreve, Mackenzie Shreve, Haley Shreve.
Yeah, just pager, I guess. If not, we can pull the throat out, I guess.
Can we have Anna Millen to the holding ring, please? Anna Millen.
About the time you dance, she comes along. Don't do it. Get away from the fence. Jenny is Jackie. Don't touch her hair. Don't touch her hair.
I apologize for taking some extra time. I think the top pair of this set is awfully close, and I think he could justify doing it either way. I still haven't completely made up my mind yet, so I'm going to keep talking about each of them individually here in no particular order. Young Man's Weather up front. The front two-thirds of that animal are really good. He's wide-chested, big in his forearm, still scout featured. Right there behind his shoulder, he comes out with a really big square shape. Handling that one further, he gets a touch rounder and wants to face to his edges. It's just a notch rounder there out of his hip, and then directly from behind is probably where his worst view is. He needs to be blown open there in terms of his pin set with a shot more power there directly from behind. Young Man's Brother behind him. That one I think is a genuinely wider constructed scouter featured one of the pair. With that comes a little extra throat, a little extra chest. But from their back, that thing is huge in terms of his rib shape. He handles extremely massive there directly behind his shoulder. That one's more impressive in terms of his wedge and width as he spreads over his loin. And then directly from behind, once again, that one's the more powerful one that just leaves you with a touch more muscle shape and width there directly from behind. And like I said, I think it's awfully close between the pair. Young Man's Brown Brothers going to go ahead and be first. Second. As we continue working down the line, Young Lady's Weather I like a lot up front and all the way back about to his mid-rib. He's big-chested, scout featured like I said before, big in his forearm and really bold there in terms of his forerib, and that's what allows for his extra power there directly behind his shoulder. As we handle that one further down his spine, he wants to flatten and taper there to his loin edges, he wants to taper back into his pin set and just get continually narrower back. Needs to leave with significantly more power. Leading the Young Lady's brown arm scope that comes in, that rounds out his set, needs to be just a shot wider and bolder everywhere, and that'll allow for some extra mass and power all the way through. Like his extra leg and civic maturity, he's extended, he's sound structured, just needs a shot more muscle and look there to compete with the top three in the set. Put your hands together one more time for these individuals, folks.
Receiving purple in class 4, Brennan Shreve, Seth Myrick. Receiving blue, Mackenzie Shreve, Haley Shreve.
This overall?
It should be Anna, Seth, Raj, and then Brennan.
Oh.
This is, you guys are good for this line. Who was reserve out of class 1? The second place. It was a blue ribbon. Oh, they only gave one purple. One purple. They only gave the purple.
Now in the ring is our overall drive. Anna Millen, Seth Myring, Roslyn Bullock, and Brennan Shreve.
been a really awesome goat show. Been super fun to sort it. I think the numbers might be small, but the quality's definitely there. I've judged bigger shows than this with a lot more goats and still haven't found the quality that are here in the first line. So with that being said, I think you guys as a county should give yourselves a hand. With that being said, there's 3 in contention for me. These 3 here on the end. Young man's goat in the middle. The only thing I ask myself is, is there enough of him? Young lady's goat behind that one. The only thing I ask myself on that one is his loin good enough? And then the young man's goat that came out of the last class, is that one just, is he too big? Is he pushed just a little bit too far in terms of finish? But a really awfully nice set, folks. One more time, put your hands together for each of these goat exhibitors. Let me hear the great reserve. We bring that second place in to fill the spot of our champion, that one handles like an absolute man. He's got about as big of a hip and as much muscle there from behind as you can put into one. The only thing I ask myself is that one just pieced together good enough from the side. So with that being said, the young man directly in front of him is going to go ahead and be your reserve coach.
Our champion market goat, Rosa Bullock, and our reserve champion, Seth Myron. Thank you to our champion and reserve champion sponsors, Travis and Alicia Lacey family, and George Demusky.
I'm like not on top of anything.
No one else is made out of
I don't think anyone's going to be off.
Our dry yearlings that have never pitted, Rosa Bullock, Michaela Hood, Michaela Hood. Our champion breeding Nico and reserve champion breeding Nico awards are sponsored by Annette Wood and Arnold Wood and Sean Cattle. Thank you for sponsoring our awards.
once again, the quality in the goat show transitions into the nose. It's always fun to sort from this side too, again to see what is behind the market goats that we just judged, and talk about each of the components that I think need to be there in order to make one that wins the fair here. Young Lady Doe up front is going to go ahead and win for me. She's not the stoutest featured one in this set, but as you study her up front, there's a lot of unique breeding pieces as far as that one. Shallowness of chest, still wide in that regard, and then how neat and feminine she is on top of there, while still being so round-bodied and opened up in terms of her rib cage from their back. I think what specifically sorts her over the one in second is not only her unique pieces up front, but the fact that she's just a touch more powerful over the back side of her, the top side of her skeleton. She handles just a notch more impressive there, directly behind her shoulder. You know, if we were going to switch the pair, I think she'd get beat directly from behind, and she needs to be just a touch stouter there for her lower leg. And that's where the Young Lady Doe in second has her beat. She is the stouter featured one that's just a touch wider all the way through. When she came in the ring, she hit me as just like a huge, stout, maternal breeding doe that just, you know, screams maternal there from the side. She has a lot of cool pieces as far as breeding and some weight. Rib shape, she just needs to be a touch more impressive there, directly behind her shoulder. She's a little bit sharp in that regard, so maybe take her to just a notch of a bigger back buck. I think that you could read that out of her. Young Lady Doe is going to come in third for me. You know, she's still extremely feminine to me. This one's just the definition of refinement. She's super pretty in terms of her skull and horn shape. She's thin in terms of her neck. Super shallow in terms of her chest, and just really fresh in terms of her presentation and condition. I just think when you get on either side of her, she maybe just gets swallowed a little bit relative to the other two in this set. She's not as overwhelming in terms of her skeletal width and chest width up front. The same story goes from behind. Like to see there's a notch more power there for her pin set and lower leg. But an awfully nice trio, folks. Go ahead and put your hands together for these individuals.
Receiving purple, Michaela Hood. Receiving blue, Robbie Bullock. Thank you, Riley Johnson, for being awesome. Now in the ring are junior kid, the Indigo class, Brian Bullock.
single entry go kid here. One thing I'd like to fix about her is just blow her open in terms of her forehead, clean her up in terms of her teeth ever so slightly there, fix that just a little bit. But outside of that, I think this is a really, really nice doe, an exciting future breeding piece in my opinion. Her look up front is incredible in terms of the way her chest is shoved up into her. She's still wide in that regard, and yet still neat in terms of the way her shoulders laid into her. She's extremely feminine and refined from there up front. Like I said, she needs to be just a notch bolder there in terms of her forehead, but I think that'll facilitate just a notch more power directly behind her shoulder. But the young lady's done an awesome job presenting her. She's extremely fresh in terms of her hair. Her condition is extremely good. And I think as that doe leaves you, she can maybe be just a touch more powerful, but she's still extremely square in the way she's built. Like I said, a really nice single entry. Go ahead and put your hands together for that individual.
Now entering the ring is our senior fifth class, Michaela Hood.
A really nice single entry here once again. She might not be as out there in terms of her chest. She's got a little bit extra fill and depth in that regard, but I think that's what allows her to be just a touch wider constructed and bolder from their back. The fact that she's just a notch rounder out of her hip, I think is what facilitates her extra power there from behind. It's a stout-footed, wide constructed doe, with really round body. Maybe could be a touch more impressive there directly behind her shoulder, but she's really sound in motion, balances well. Balances extremely well there from the side. Another nice single entry, folks. Put your hands together for her.
Receiving purple, Michaela Hood.
Whatever her name is, yeah.
Not yet.
Oh, I set him
Now in the ring is our overall breeding meat goat drive, Michaela Hood, Rosin Bullock, Michaela Hood.
These are the kind of shows that make sorting fairs pretty fun. My job out here is it's to educate and to work with the youth here, but it's also to just focus on the livestock and try to place them the best to my abilities. And I think that this is a lot more competitive than these individuals in the ring and the people watching realize, because for me, it's tough to decide between, you've got two extremely solid does that I don't think you could go wrong using, and there's two does to me that maybe need just a shot more, maybe just a little bit more oomph, but they're more unique in terms of their breeding pieces, and ones that I think would be fun to breed around and try to find a pair to match with them to make elite ones. So with that being said, I've been risky all day, I'm going to use them again. The young ladies at the front of the line are going to be your champion in reserve, folks. One more time, put your hands together for these go-getters.
Kayla, your buckle will be here later.
Okay, that's good.
Huh? Is it one for market?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Our champion breeding Mika and Kayla Hood. Our reserve champion breeding Mika, Robin Bullitt. That is the end of our Miko show. Thank you to everyone who came.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.